Hello, audience. You're listening to the Breadcrumbs to Passion podcast, where we give you the breadcrumbs to your passion by inspiring you with deeper and connected conversations for you to have fun and live wholeheartedly.
Hi, I'm Amanda Giebel.
And I'm Jason French, your host of the Breadcrumbs to Passion podcast.
Episode number 9. Underlying trust issues.
Hey, Amanda. So good to have you this week. I'm looking forward to going into this particular topic with you once again around underlying trust issues. So let's get started around how would I know if I've got underlying trust issues?
Well, I just find this really
how would
funny.
you know you've got underlying trust issues?
I just find this really funny because we've just had a conversation and I felt like you were really fired up about a certain situation that you were facing.
Yeah.
And it was about trust issues. So how about let's flip that, Jason?
Okay, so as you were saying, I was quite fired up about this particular subject, especially around underlying trust issues. I think, so what are you asking is for me, is that what you're asking?
Yes, I think this is perfect for you if we flip that question
and ask me.
Because it's so real and right in our perspective.
Absolutely. I think that one of the things that I've noticed, and I think this is what I was sharing to you before, is around when it comes to actual trust, a lot of people struggle with this particular area, having trust issues because they don't trust themselves. Yeah. And what I was sharing with Amanda earlier was basically how I have learned through so much years of doing this work, where I actually believed other people's interests were for my interests. And what I've learned through that process was because I didn't trust myself, which then I didn't really trust them, which means I didn't really own my power in that situation. So since obviously going through that particular process over the years and now getting to where I am in the work that I do, I'm really big on trusting myself. So I will give people the opportunity, but it doesn't mean to say that their interests are their interests for me are from the right place. So one of the things I always use as a little mantra is trust people for who they are, not who you want them to be.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, to be honest, that's what happens in a relationship kind of sense, is that you go in trusting that, you put in that same energy, you're going to get the same energy back. And then over time, there's that place where not everyone's on the same page. And so then one person will do something and then it's a counterbalance the whole time. It's that trust is just getting broken and more broken and more broken. Like I like to explain it as, a diamond, we're chipping away that diamond. So, at some stage it ends up shattered because there's so many things that have happened in a relationship that break that trust.
Absolutely.
From betrayal. I think that's where you were going before, is that betrayal.
Yeah, like you were saying before when we were on the conversation, it was around the betrayal, manipulation and abandonment. A lot of people have trust issues around. So if you've gone through a lot of manipulation, emotional manipulation, from childhood or all that sort of stuff, or, society or whatever it is, and you'll see this in a lot of the stuff out there. There's a lot of I'm gonna say it because I truly believe this. A lot of NLP side of things. It's a lot of, escaping the problem rather than actually learning the lesson. And those kinds of techniques have been used years. Yes, they have helped people overcome the problem for a temporary solution, but it doesn't give longevity or sustainability. And so this is something in relationships, for example, what you're saying here is, or whether it's your finances, life, whatever it is. What I find is a lot of people, when they don't actually come back to what they're being taught about themselves to expand and grow, it takes away from where it is they're wanting to move forward in, meaning they then have more trust issues. It doesn't build self-trust. It doesn't build self-belief. It doesn't build self-empowerment. So it's kind of like coming back to that place of understanding where it's actually coming from, that manipulation. We all get manipulated on a daily level on so many different things. There's so many different scenarios where we can feel that we get abandoned. There's so many different scenarios that we may feel betrayed. But at the end of the day, what you're doing is you're giving away your power, because you're giving away that responsibility to somebody else. So that's what I find really, really interesting, is when we bring that back and we understand where that's actually coming from, then we can let go of the, the woes are me that's been done to me. It's more hip, hip, hooray, this is what it is for me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Like I think at both ends of the scale, we can be manipulators. We can, have that betrayal with other people, and we can abandon other people because
Absolutely.
it's all coming from that hurt, that pain, that trigger of something happened in our previous years, whether that be from childhood all the way through, in our adult life. I think, we can be on both ends of the scale, doing and receiving.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
No one is perfect. And at some stages, I'm sure we can all put our hand up and go, yeah, that was me, I did that. Or, yep, definitely can see the flip side of that. So how do we find a middle ground? I guess that's the important thing.
Well, I really think that when it comes to middle ground, I believe that we can use that as an excuse too. Do you know what I mean? Going from one side to the other, like I've been manipulated and controlled, so therefore I'm going to manipulate and control other people. Yeah. That's no self-responsibility. And I mean, we're seeing that right out there, like around health issues right now. Like, like it's massive. Like there's so much coercion, there's so much manipulation, there's so much segregation, there's all this sort of stuff. Now, really, in the core of who you really are, in your truth, in the heart of your hearts, do you truly, truly believe? Do you truly believe that
good for you or bad for you?
this is good for you or bad for you? Like, do you truly believe? Do you truly believe that one little thing is going to save the world? Now, I've been around for quite a long time, and I've noticed that no one's come in to save me. I've had to save myself.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I've had to make decisions and I had to make choices. Now, at the end of that, I had to also be responsible for those outcomes. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like, and I find that's really interesting. A lot of people don't want to take the responsibility, and they hand their power away. And they are usually the ones with the trust issues. Do you know what I mean? Like, and it's not being a rebel. It's not being stubborn. It's not none of that. Because this is the other thing that I've found really interesting, is when you actually stand and what it is, it's really true for you in your heart of hearts, when you can see all the bullshit. Like, what happens with a lot of people is they go to that place of being bullied or pushed out of manipulation, like just to fit in, to belong. Because if you don't do this, you can't eat at my table. If you don't do this, you can't do this. Yeah. Like, there's, like, really, in the heart of hearts, do you really mean that you would segregate yourself from a fellow human because they don't fit your criteria? Then we're all going to have trust issues.
Yeah,
100%. We're going to have a lot of trust issues.
Yeah.
There's a difference between conditions and things that add or take away from your well-being, like as in evolving or growing or whatever. Like this.
Yeah. I think it all comes down to fairness. Like, what would you actually, like, would you like to be treated the way you're treating others?
Absolutely.
So fairness.
And there's greater responsibility. I keep on using that word because I want to drum that into people. It comes down to self-responsibility.
But to get to that place of self-responsibility, there's a lot of work that has to go on, because if you're not going to get in touch with who you are and what triggers you and what upsets you, if you're projecting on other people and other people it's their fault, well, then it's going to be very hard to take self-responsibility. So we need to first be aware of, okay, well, if this happens, am I reacting? Is it, what part of me am I responsible for this happening? And this is, again, coming back to that relationship kind of thing. There's two people in a relationship. There's one side of the story and there's the other side of the story, and there's a middle ground.
Yeah, it's the truth.
Yeah. And if we're not going to look at both sides of the story and only think our side of the story, or, you know, that one person's side of the story is all it, well, then there's no fairness.
Mm.
So, yeah, that's self-responsibility, is stepping back and saying, all right, what did I do in this situation to make it worse or to not be fair? So we get, so then that's, you know, we're taking that responsibility.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree. Around the particular area of trust issues, those underlying trust issues, something that I think that we need to also look at is why people, you know, stay in those trust issues rather than, you know, like move forward from them. So, for instance, a lot of it is around unprocessed trauma. You know, a lot of people will stay and they think that they actually don't have trust issues, but they actually do. Do you know what I mean? Like,
well, I guess it's fear, but also, again, when you start knowing yourself, you're like, oh yeah, I can see that's come up a few times, and that, you know, that penny drops. It's like, then I can see a different way.
yeah.
But until that penny drops and you're flying blind, you're not in that self-awareness or, you know, taking that responsibility. It's, yeah, you can't process these traumas because you actually don't understand it. You don't know. So
yeah, it's funny you should say that. I think that I've actually heard a lot of that from a lot of clients over the time, recently especially, saying it's like a different language when you go into self-awareness, when you go into self-discovery. And, you know, I've never really looked at it that way because of the fact that it's something that I suppose, I mean, I've been doing for over 20 years. And for me, when I first started, I would take in the information, even if I didn't understand it. Like I was still open to the learning. So I still trusted the process. It didn't necessarily mean I trusted the person, because I believe doesn't matter what happens in the process, we're going to learn something. So maybe around the underlying trust issues, that's just popped out for me as a little great tip for people. Is it really about the person or the process that you're trusting? And can you trust yourself in the process? Because I feel like a lot of people struggle around that particular area. They can't trust themselves in the process. Therefore, they can't trust the guidance, or they can't trust and so then they attract those people that relate to them. So giving themselves a back door all the time because they, you know,
which comes from fear.
Yeah, exactly. It comes around fear because they don't want to feel inferiority, which is really in fear of their own authority. So,
and then coming back to that again is like, you know, following the herd. You know, your other example is being a sheep and just being, well, this person did this and this person did this and this person did this, I must follow that. Instead of being like, hey, no, I'm my own person and I make my own decisions.
Yeah. And, you know, I think it's the more people step into knowing, like it's a baby learning to walk, you know, the baby's got to do the walking. You can't walk for the baby. If you keep carrying the baby never walks. Do you know what I mean? And so I think the baby's learning to trust itself. So then why is it that we take then that away from them as they get older, as they mature in their development? Why do we take the trust away from them? You know, why is that?
Well, I think everyone has expectations. And so maybe when we're little, we expect, like, well, why aren't my parents there? You know, if it's abandonment, why aren't my parents there? They don't love me. So we're all creating a story. And this starts from a very young age. So we keep creating these stories. And what happens? We end up confused. We end up traumatized by those experiences because we're making a story out of what we think is true, but it's actually not true. It's like, so it ends up in a big mess. You know, like what do we do about that? That's why everyone's walking around traumatized in fear, because we're all like scared.
Exactly. And that's, I mean, obviously why I'm so passionate about what I do in that particular area, because when people realize that how powerful they are in creating their own chaos, what happens is they can easily shift that. But what it takes is for them to see that before they shift it. And it's no quick fix. It's a case of stepping into learning the new language as such for some people, or it's foreign. But when you started grade 1, did you know how to do it? Some people did, some people didn't. At the end of the day, you have to be open to learning. And so with trust issues, it's more about being open to learning yourself, like open to learning about yourself and why it is you don't trust or why it is you do trust, and then using your discernment to be able to go, okay, this is for me and this is not meant for me. And there's no issue. Just because something's not meant for you doesn't mean to say you need to justify it or validate it or anything like that. If it's not meant for you, it's not meant for you. It's just be open to the learning.
If it doesn't feel right, well, then, there is another way possible.
Absolutely.
Just because someone else is doing something doesn't mean it's the be and end all.
Yeah, exactly. So how do you think we overcome this underlying trust issue?
Getting really present with yourself, like doing the work. Like you said, it's a book, it's a learning game. We each day it's like we got to flip that page, like going through the book and step by step. It's a long journey, but it's also, that on the other side, we're all going to be learning forever. There's always going to be something to learn. So, it's a fun process, but you attract to what page you're at.
Very good. Like that one.
You like it? Yeah.
And it's funny you actually should say that, because I think around that particular area too is when you go to the next level, what has been in that previous chapter, they will all come at you.
Yeah.
Just to see if you're really congruent on whether or not you can trust yourself to go to the next level. And that's the thing that I think I've learned massively.
Yeah. Or I always say, like, just to test, the universe is just testing you to go, okay, have you learned your lesson? Well, show us,
Show us.
Show us.
It's that Mario game, isn't it?
Off you go. Next.
That Mario game, you go to the next level, you got to squash all the mushrooms.
Yeah. and then, like, what's that? Ding, ling, ling, ling. Winner.
You go to the next level and it's a whole new world. And it's a whole new world. And then you go through, but there's some common things in it.
Yes.
Mario, mushrooms.
New chapter.
Like there's still things you got to collect along the way, like.
Yeah. Wow, we just went off on a tangent.
Oh no, but it's great because it's all part of trusting yourself in the new level, like it's I think that's a lot of people, how we can change it is really, seeing people for who they are or the situation for what it is, not what we wanted it to be. So even if there's a relationship breakdown, or if there's finance issues, or if there's something to do with your loss of identity or something like that, I think the biggest thing that I learned through all those different scenarios for myself is I had to, how I let go of the underlying trust issues of other people, making it about them, was when I came to that place of realizing it was me. Like I only had to trust me. I couldn't control anyone else. I couldn't manipulate anyone else to validate me, to control me, to, I could get anyone to control me, but to validate me and acknowledge me or believe in me, that was my responsibility. And so how we can change those particular areas of our lives is to get that from ourselves. Acknowledge yourself. Come into that place of self-belief. Can you believe in you? As soon as you give that to someone else to do, that's a different scenario. You're going to be creating codependency, and you're going to be creating a cycle of resentment, because if that person doesn't give it to you, you're going to go into that other place of, they don't give it to me, like you were saying before, therefore I'm not valued, therefore I resent you, therefore we're not meant to be together, therefore this, that, and the other. It's all BS. What it all comes down to. What's that?
Stand in your power.
Stand in your power. Just own, this is what it is for me. I'm just not feeling it today.
This is who I am.
That's it. So another way you can do to change that is play that song. This is me.
Or just play some Mario Kart.
Mario Kart, and know that you can collect these little gems along the way and trinkets and all these little things. They're going to help you go to the next level.
Yeah, and have some fun while you're doing it.
Exactly. It's been great having this chat with you today, and look forward to sharing more with our listeners next week. By all means, if there's any way that Amanda or myself could support you in being able to move forward or live your best life, then by all means, please reach out. And as always from me, be brave and be the change.
Empower yourself to greatness, and move through the chapters of life with ease and grace, because you can, and you're worthy.
Beautiful. Great tips, hints, and collaborations.
Whatever that was.
I know. Okay, take care. Bye for now.
Bye.
The information contained in this presentation is of a general nature and based on presenters' personal experiences. It does not constitute specific advice. Always seek individual expert opinion to help with your specific needs and situation.